All right, guys and gals, back to work tonight, Wednesday evening, July the 22nd, 2020. My name is Joseph, as always, and welcome back to your nightly newsletter. Now, if you're here for the first time tonight, it's great to have you with me, because my job tonight is to help us find the best entry setups for tomorrow. That's Thursday's trading session, and I got a great video in store for you guys tonight. The charts are already in the background, as you can see. We got some gold, we got some oil, and of course, we got the E-minis on our radar for tomorrow. Got a lot of great setups as the E-minis try to retest those highs. Oil's trying to retest highs. Gold, of course, trying to break to new highs here tomorrow. We'll break all of this down into bite-sized pieces. Got a bunch of key setups we're tracking for Thursday. Before we jump in, though, I just want to make sure to remind you guys to subscribe to this YouTube channel. I don't want you guys to miss all the good stuff we publish every evening on this video. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. And don't forget, if you have any questions about anything we talk about in this video tonight, drop those questions in the comment section below. I'll get them answered as soon as we finish. And as always, if you tune in every evening to watch this video, hit that thumbs up button for me. I always appreciate you guys carving out some time with me every evening on this video newsletter. But speaking of the video, let's cut to the chase here. Let's get this video going. I want to grab our calendar for tomorrow. We got some more news coming tomorrow. Earnings, stimulus, jobs. Let's grab that calendar courtesy of Econo Day, and let's see what we got happening here tomorrow for Thursday. Tomorrow, of course, is Thursday, July the 23rd. Now, of course, we have been talking a lot about earnings this week, stimulus this week, and of course, tomorrow we get a big jobs report here, or jobless claims report coming out at 8:30 Eastern time. So, as we've been talking about all week this week, the earnings season, right? Earnings season, we are knee deep in earnings season here this week, which means before the market opens, after the market closes, some of the biggest stocks, the biggest names, we've all heard of them. They're reporting their quarterly earnings either after the close or before the open. So that means if you're trading in Asia, if you're in London, if you're trading the overnight and the pre-market, be aware, right? You are going to be susceptible to some spikes and some dips and dives and some chaos, as I call them, little earnings grenades going off in the just after the closing bell and of course before the opening bell. So please be careful if you're not aware of earnings. There's plenty of earnings calendars available online. You can see which companies are reporting to see if they apply to whatever market is your favorite. So we also talking about stimulus. We heard from the EU on Tuesday, right? They got their deal inked or deal negotiated on Tuesday. Will we hear more tomorrow about ongoing stimulus? We've heard a lot of chatter back and forth about everything from payroll taxes to unemployment benefits. So we're definitely seeing the wheels of in motion right now. Hopefully we'll keep hearing more updates tomorrow, and that may, of course, be one of the biggest market moving events if we do hear something tomorrow. So definitely a known unknown on the radar for tomorrow will be, will we hear more about the stimulus package coming out of the U.S.? So earnings on our radar, stimulus on our radar. Tomorrow, of course, the big news of the morning is those jobs, right? Jobless claims, that is, at 8:30 Eastern time. Now, of course, the big deal tomorrow, everything's going to be bad, right? They're all going to be bad numbers. So don't let the big numbers scare you. It's really just, was it not as bad as they were expecting? And pay close attention to the revisions from last week's jobs report. So there's a lot of data coming out tomorrow at 8:30 Eastern time with a lot of potential to shake these markets up. And we, of course, will have a front row seat for that jobless claims report tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock Eastern time. We open up our trade room 8 a.m. Monday through Friday, and we'll be prepped and ready to go for that jobless claims report at 8:30. And as I always say, what I'll do is I'll put all of the information you need to come out and join me tomorrow and trade this stuff with me in the trade room. It's very easy to get registered. I'll put all the info in the description of this YouTube video, so make sure you grab that link, get registered for tomorrow morning's trade room. That way we'll have a front row seat for the jobless claims report at 8:30, and we'll trade the plan together. Looking good. So earnings, stimulus, jobs tomorrow. Got a pretty good plan of attack for tomorrow here on the news headlines. We'll come back and talk tomorrow night about Friday's trading session. Get some more big news coming on Friday. That's probably the biggest news of the week, is that 9:45 PMI composite flash on Friday. So don't take off too early here this week. Make sure you stick around for Friday's trading session, because there will probably be some pretty good setups. Moving on to our charts though here now. I've got my calendar all ready for tomorrow. We need to be aware of the earnings reports coming out overnight and pre-market, and of course the news tomorrow. Jumping into the charts, S&P, got some crude, got some gold. Boy, a lot to talk about here tonight. Gold, of course, is on a tear right now. Pretty wild day on gold. Oil's got its eyes back on that 42.50 area. But I want to start first, though, with the S&P here tonight. The S&P, boy, what a... We talked about this last night on the newsletter. If you watched last night's newsletter, right, we talked about that big move down. We talked about that snap back into the range, and we talked about that nested failure, right, going back down again. Man, what a classic little shake and bake, right, from those buyers and sellers. If you watched last night's newsletter, you were ready for battle here today. Now you can see here we're pretty much right back up to those highs where we kind of finished off. Or where we those highs from yesterday. That's kind of the big, kind of the big deal here right now in the S&P. We know we're bullish. I think it's pretty easy to see we're moving from lower left to upper right here. So we're definitely a bull market right now. I think the hardest part here is just finding a way to buy without buying too aggressively, right, into those highs right now, right? So we got that range. They run lower. They're swinging it back higher here. And we're ultimately running right into that overhead resistance. So we know we're bullish. We don't want to buy too aggressively up here, right? I don't want to buy into those highs here. I mean, in all reality, this could be right a little bit lower like that. So I want to buy at support. Right, I want to buy at support. Want to buy at. I got a lot of support levels that we can see here right now. I think the two most important situations right now are going to be: do we end up going sideways up here? A lot of times we retest the high, we'll start seeing some ranges form up here. Will we continue through these highs? We want to make sure we're ready for that plan. What I really want though is I'd love to get a pullback. I'd love to get that pullback. If I had it my way tomorrow, this is exactly where I'd be buying. We're bullish. I want to buy at support. I've marked up those highs down to that low. That creates a fantastic area of support for me. I really like, though, this trading range. Now, you probably have heard me talk about ranges before, right? What are ranges? Ranges are magnets, right? Lots of volume traded hands inside this area here. And so this little guy right there, that 57, 52 area, that is really very much a magnet for price. So I've also got this trend line coming up. I want to be ready for that trend line as well, because you never know how sharp of a pullback we're going to get. So do we push higher? Do we go sideways? Do we pull back? My kind of home run trade, or my dream come true trade tomorrow, my preferred trade would be a pullback down to the low of this channel. Now, when we get that pullback, there's a couple different things I'm always looking for right on these pullbacks. The kind of the most clean cut and dry setup would be a seller failure, right? I'm hoping we get that pullback, get those bears to come in, try to sell short off the moving average. It'll probably look a lot like this pattern right there, right? We pull back, bears try to sell, and we buy back up. Pull back, bears try to sell, and we buy back up. That same type of idea here. What I'm looking for here tomorrow is, can I get that pullback off the high? Can I get those sellers to try to sell short? Because when they do, I can now identify their stops. I would assume that sellers at that point are rookies because they're going against the trend on this. They should probably have their stops pretty tight. I want to buy right into those stop losses, and of course looking for that pullback, right, to complete the rotation back up to retest the high. I call these seller failure patterns, right? They're basically just pullback failures off the moving average. Seller failure patterns, pullback patterns. Target is where? Target, of course, is back up to retest the high. If you have an extra bullet left on the gun, right, leave that runner up to that measured move. I should also warn you, though, we're seeing a lot of jumpy price action right now because of earnings and because of stimulus, rumors flying around right now. So if we happen to really bounce, right, really hard off of that low, keep your eyes open now for a trap. Right, so if we really bounce hard off of that low, you know what I mean? I really don't want to. I don't want to trade this. Right, I'm not looking for this. I'm not looking for a failure up here. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to buy right into that high here right now. I'm trying to get down to that area, right? Get those bears coming over, right? And buy nice and low here, right? Seller failure into pullback going higher. If it kind of V-bottoms like this been doing a lot of recently, right? Just look for those traps, right? Looking for traps. So again, if it really bounces hard off of that, right? Off of that trend line, which I could easily see happening because again, that range is a magnet, right? Channel low is a great support level. What I'll do is I'll wait for that little trap low. If it doesn't give me the opportunity to buy off the low of that channel, right? Makes sense there? So again, if it bounces hard, right? Bounces hard there, just wait for that trap, right? And buy nice and low there. Now, another thing I'm watching would be this trend line, right? Because there's a chance this thing may really sink, like we saw before here, right? So we may get that shot going lower here. If it really sinks like a rock on this, it's not a bear market yet. It's just a very sharp pullback. And whenever we see a sharp pullback, like we saw in this one, right? Sharp pullback, one try for the bears, two try for the bears, back up again. Same idea, right? So one try for the bears, two try for the bears, and then back up again. In this case, these are called nested failure patterns. Well, at least I call them nested failure patterns because it's a failure instead of a failure. Keep in mind, too, these patterns oftentimes snap right back up. And because they snap so hard, I like to look for little traps before we go back and retest that high. Does that make sense? Right? So a seller failure, again, it's the same idea, right? Wait for that nice deep pullback. If it's really deep, like this example I'm showing you here, wait for bears to try once, try twice, then you know where their stops are and you can buy right into those stop losses. When we get those deep pullbacks, we oftentimes really slam higher, and when it runs higher like that, we don't want to buy right too aggressively up there, which is why you want to look for that trap low. So nested failure, right, into trap pattern. Now I'll tell you guys, we do a lot of work with failures and traps every morning in our trade room. Tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock Eastern time, we'll do it together as well. But if you're not with me tomorrow in the trade room, the next best thing is to grab our free trading course. I'll put a little link up there in the upper right hand corner for you guys. Grab that link. Get registered for that free trading course because you'll learn all the vital details of failure patterns, trap patterns, and all of our favorite setups, right, directly from our video classes here at School of Trade. So make sure you grab that free course at the very least. That way tomorrow night when you come back for tomorrow night's newsletter, when I say failures or nested failures or two-try traps, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And again, like I mentioned earlier, I'll put all of the important links for you guys, including access to tomorrow morning's trade room as a member. I'll put all those in the description of this YouTube video. Okay, so now I think we had a pretty good plan here for the pullback on this market. The other problem I have here too, of course, with this high is, we may end up seeing this market just kind of go sideways, right? It may just kind of start to blend, kind of bleed sideways here. If that's the case, there's nothing wrong with that at all. The plan stays almost the same, right? If we do end up going sideways, I'm still going to wait for that pullback. I'm still going to be looking for those bears. In this case, try to sell that breakout pullback, and I'll still be looking to buy right into those stop losses going higher. The only real kind of variable here, I think, going higher then would be how do we go higher? If the market goes higher, do we grind higher like this? Right? Is it a spike in channel, as they're called, right? Spike up into a spike in channel. I'll tell you, if we see a spike in channel on this chart going higher, now find the base of that channel and get ready for that pullback, failure into pullback combination off that low. I mean, this would be a really great setup, right? That failure into pullback combination after a spike in channel. That would be great too if we kind of get this thing to kind of sluggishly keep going higher. I would also be aware too, right? The market may jump up into that measured move, and that might be where we get that range up there, right? So just be aware of that. 1, 2, failure, and back up from there. So if we do sit, right? If we do go up and go sideways there, we'll keep on looking for those seller failure patterns. Let those bears try twice, right? Let them Let them sell underneath the moving average there. Let them sell a moving average and buy it right back up. The other scenario would be if this thing gets back on the horse and starts to run, right? If it really starts to run and goes higher here, I'm all good, right? I'm happy to buy this. I'm not going to chase after it. What I'll do is I'll find my channel, mark the highs first, right? Mark those lows, and then get ready for that first test. Right? That is called a breakout, right? It's called a 1, 2, 3 breakout pattern. Now, remember, you really got to get a good strong punch here, right? I don't want to get any emails saying, "How about this one?" Right? This is definitely not it. That's not the breakout, right? It's right into that measured move. But if I can get these buyers to say what measured move, right? Maybe we hear more about stimulus, right? Maybe we hear more about whatever, right? A lot going on right now. Maybe earnings come out really bullish, right? We really run. Mark up that high, mark up that low, finding that hidden channel, and we're buying the pullback off that hidden channel. Those hidden channels are great. I always like to grab the first test right after those hidden channels. Well, I think we've milked the long side here as much as we can here now. We know the plan for up, down, and sideways, but the big question is, how do we sell this market? Is it possible to sell this market right now? Well, first of all, we're at a major turning point, but you got to be very careful calling tops in these markets right now because of all the stimulus talks, and it looks like these numbers are starting to come down. Knock on wood. It looks like these cases are starting to come down. New cases, a lot of new cases, but it looks like percentages are starting to get a little bit better here, and it looks like they're starting to get a little bit of making up ground against this pandemic right now. So with stimulus coming in, with the cases starting to slow down here as far as the data I saw today, it is difficult to want to call a top on this market right now. So knowing that, the way I want to sell short on this is after reversal, right? I want to wait for a reversal. I'm not really in the habit of trying to pick a top in a bull market, especially when the Fed has communicated to us its willingness to keep this economy propped up here until 2022. So how do we short this thing then? First, wait for that strong pullback. Then make those bears prove they want it with that 1, 2, 3 reversal. Remember, I'm not trying to sell that first pullback, right? Because if you sell that one, you got to sell this one. You got to sell this one. Yeah, I know, right? You don't want to sell that first pullback. Believe me, I wish it was that easy, but it's not that easy, right? If we do get that strong pullback, I'm looking for that to fail and go back up. So strong move down, pull back to the moving average, jump off the moving average, right? That gives me that 1, 2, 3 reversal. And then what I'll do is I'll mark up that low. I'll mark up that high. Now, there is a little bit of nuance to how these reversals happen. Sometimes I'll use the bigger high if I can get a better looking channel. We'll talk more about that, obviously, in our trade room tomorrow when that time comes. But the bottom line, though, is I do want to get short, though, off that new hidden channel. And we'll look at the channels a little bit closer tomorrow. Where's my target? Target, of course, is down at that low at 32.2725. So 1, 2, 3 reversal, marking up that low, marking up that high, and first test is the best test, right? To sell off of that high on the way down. And remember, we're not just selling a pullback off the high of that channel. Usually that pullback is actually a seller failure into pullback combination, right? Usually it's like a failure, right? A failure into pullback combination. If you were to kind of zoom in on that area right there. And again, we'll talk more about that obviously tomorrow in the trade room. And again, I cover a lot of those small details in our free trading class, which is linked up there in the upper right hand corner. All right, guys, I think we're looking pretty good there on the E-mini. What will earnings look like here overnight? Your guess is as good as mine. Only time will tell, but we have a good plan no matter what the market throws at us for Thursday. Speaking of which, let's grab some oil here. Oil, of course, made it through its inventory report today. They have a lot of inventory coming out here. Market, of course, now pretty much bullish breakout of this trading range. If someone was to ask me, how would you describe this market? I would say we have a bull market right now, right? That will be a range-bound market. Market starts off going lower into a range here. If you recall, last night we talked about finding those lows, right, marking up that high, right, looking for those failures to sell short off the high. So plan worked out pretty well if you watched last night's newsletter. Now we got that bear market turns bullish. It's very difficult to ignore such a strong bull move higher here. That is a very strong bull breakout higher. So definitely difficult to ignore that. Looks like the bulls have control of this market right now. It looks to me like we have kind of a combination of it's pretty much a spike in channel, basically. Let me get rid of these lines here so you can kind of see what I'm thinking on this. We know the buyers right now. We know they want to get back up to retest these highs. Don't let this little guy fool you right there. That's not really the objective right now for the bulls. The bulls want to get back up to retest that 42.51. The bears, they want to get back down to that 41.14. It looks to me like a spike in channel, if you want my opinion. Looks to me like a spike up, a pullback, a higher high. What is really cool about this, interesting about this, is you can mark up these highs and then bring it right down to that low. Look at how well that lines up here. That tells me pretty much two things here, really. One of them would be I can definitely buy the low of that channel. That's a beautiful setup off that low. We know we're bullish. We want to be a buyer in a bull market. It's not a range market, at least not at this point. It's not a range market. It may end up going sideways here in the overnight. But right now, though, we have broken out of that range. I do want to find levels of support. So I like the fact that I can connect those highs, bring it down to that low. I like the fact that I can buy right off of that low. That will be great. I also, again, it looks like a spike in channel. And spike in channels are notorious for one specific pullback, and that is, and we just talked about this, right? We talked about this, the base of that channel, right? The base of that channel. So that is definitely something on my radar here as well for tomorrow. So we may not get that full-blown, right? That full-blown pullback. We may only get just a relatively shallow pullback, right? As the buyers sort of make this run back to the highs. And then you can see how we might end up going sideways up here. You know, sometimes we do see a range that breaks out and then goes into a new range. So we do want to be ready for that as well. So let's talk about pullbacks here right now. First of all, let's talk about the first one, the shallow pullback. Now, shallow pullback here, now there's a couple different, obviously shallow pullback is a relative term. What I'm really thinking right now is if I get a relatively shallow pullback here into this first buy zone, right? And we talked about this on the S&P. If I get a very shallow pullback and a hard bounce, I'm looking for traps, right? Because I don't want to buy too high. So if it does, let's just say, for example, right, it kind of V bottoms there, right? It pulls back, just barely touches that 73 area. At that point, I don't want to buy too high, which is why I look for traps, right, in those situations. If the market pulls back a little bit deeper, right, almost down to that 41.61, if it really pulls back a bit deeper for us, that's when we start looking for those seller failures into pullback combination, right? Seller failure into pullback combination. Where's my target? Back to retest the high, up at 42.22. Leave the runner, if you have an extra contract, up to retest that 42 half highs that I mentioned earlier. So shallow pullbacks, right? And it really all depends on kind of how shallow the market does pull back. If we do get a much deeper pullback here, right? If it really sinks back down, you've definitely got to be worried about that range trying to drag this market lower. I like the idea of buying off of that trend line, but it's a little bit tough to stomach the idea of just buying it. So if the market does kind of collapse down to that low here, clearing through that first buy zone, now what's the problem? Now momentum is the problem, right? So now bear's going to try once, bear's going to try twice. That's, of course, called a nested failure. I'll look for that nested failure. And again, usually I would love to say it'll go right up and pull back and let you get in again for a failure into pullback combination. That might be the case, but a lot of times after these deep pullbacks and these nested failures, a lot of times the market will snap back higher, shallow pullback, higher high, and that's where the money is, right below that low. I talked about this on the S&P, right? So deep pullback, looking for nested failure into a two-try trap pattern on that move back up to retest the high. So again, just quick recap, right? Shallow pullback, looking for traps, right? Shallow pullback, looking for traps. Relatively deep pullback, right? Not too deep, looking for failures into pullback, right? Combinations. And of course, we see that real strong pullback coming lower here. Look for those nesteds. 1, 2, shot up, two-try trap, and go from there, right? Relatively easy plan. All we need now is a little bit more time. Now, I should also mention, too, if the market does continue to kind of bleed higher here, we talked about this on the S&P, if you recall, a few minutes ago. If we do keep going higher, just keep your eyes on that area right there. Wait for that pullback. Now, at this point, I'm not so worried about buying high at this point now, right? Because the market now has made more high, right? The market has kind of cleared some open space for me. So at that point, I'm not so worried about if I get that modest pullback. I'm not so worried about that two-try failure pattern into pullback combination, right? So hopefully you kind of see what I'm saying on that. So there is a bit of context that plays into this. If it pulls back right away, look for traps. If it keeps on grinding higher, then I've got a lot more space to go back and retest the high, failures, pullbacks, right? And again, we'll know more about this once we have some more information here on the E-mini or on the crude oil. Now, what if we go sideways here? If we go sideways here, what you want to think about, if we go sideways, start going sideways, find those previous support levels, right? So find that trend line, find your expanding triangle line. Okay, there'll usually be one on there somewhere if we do go sideways, and that's your sweet spot, right? Down around the expanding triangle, down around support, looking for that two-try seller failure. Basically what you do is you wait for the breakout, you wait for those bears to come in and try to sell the breakout pullback, and just hit them, right? Hit them right where it hurts. Buy right into those stop losses for that retest of the range high. And so that really leaves us with just basically one more scenario, and that is if this thing blasts, right? If we end up seeing, for whatever reason, right, the market blasts going higher here, if it does just jump and starts to make a run, if it really revs its engines, if it really shoots higher here, don't worry about that 42.22. Find that high, find that low, and that first test, right, on that pullback, the low of that channel. And again, if you think about, right, that channel, it's probably going to be a seller failure into bullish pullback combination. I know I talk about these a lot, but it's because they happen a lot, right? They're very, very common. So if you were to kind of zoom in on that area right there, right, it's that two-try failure, right, into pullback setup off of that low. And again, I realize I'm just simply drawing this stuff up right now, but grab that free trading course in the upper right-hand corner, right? It's also linked up in the description of this YouTube video, and that way you'll know what I'm talking about, right? You'll see a lot of examples I'll send you of how we trade that stuff on our favorite futures markets. So, course is a great place to start if you want more information on those setups. What else can I look for here? How would I sell this market right now? Being a seller is not going to be easy because, first of all, we're not at a major turning point. So I can't really call a top on this market. The second thing is we get this trend line, right? And that trend line, I mean, you've got these highs right here. I mean, it's really difficult to argue with that trend line. Really, there's you really the real easiest the easiest money you'll make in the short side will either be obviously a reversal. The problem is going to be if we can get this pull back, right, strong move down and jump off the low, now we're back into that range. So for me to want to sell that high up there, it really all depends on kind of where we are at that point. That's going to be the hardest part. If I had to guess tomorrow, I would say skip trying to time the entry on the way down, wait for the market to get back into that range, and then start planning your entries above the high of that range using those two-try failure patterns with the highs. That's a lot more reliable trade, right, than trying to kind of thread the needle so to speak. You know what I mean? If we get that 1, 2, 3 reversal, this could really blow up in your face right there, right? That could easily blow up and just start, right, and cost you some money there. So, normally I will really rely on the first test of that new hidden channel, that 1, 2, 3 reversal. Normally, that's a very good setup, but there's always that, there's always an exception to every rule. That trading range really makes it difficult to swallow. So I really think the easiest one would be wait for it to complete the reversal, get back down to that range, and then just wait for it to pop, right? Wait for it to poke its head higher, wait for those buyers to try to come in and buy the pullback, and then you got them right where you want them. It's a lot easier, right? A lot easier to structure that trade. It's a whole lot easier on your emotions. The only other thing I could see here would be if the market was able to get underneath that, right, that channel, and then 1, 2 for a trap right off of that channel low. These are a little bit tricky to see. They're a little more advanced pattern, right? So imagine if we go 1, 2, 3 down, a little shallow pullback there. Remember, you don't want to sell low at this point. You want to sell high. So if before we finish off that move, if I can find a way to get a trap on here, around that, around that underbelly of that channel, which of course is just a trend line at this point, that would allow the buyers now to try once, try twice, right, buying that pullback, and I'm able to satisfy the need to sell high without having to risk selling inside of that trading range. Right, that prevents that problem of selling low, right, if this market does reverse. So unfortunately, if I want to sell short on this right now, I've really got to wait for momentum to turn and then really stay patient, either traps or failures as we go back down into that trading range. All right, I think we're looking pretty good here on the oil. Got a good plan for tomorrow. Don't forget, 8 o'clock Eastern time, we'll be in our trade room tomorrow morning doing all of this together. Next up here, last but not least here, over on the gold. What do we know about gold here right now? Gold is kind of the tale of two ranges here right now. Quite the crazy start to the day here today. You probably saw that big blast. So, basically what happened was the market blasts higher, right? Big blast higher. We know that anytime we see a strong move in one direction, we know the odds are very good that they go back up to retest that high, right? This is a little more dramatic than we normally get, but they got that big blast higher. And what it looks to me like the bears got a nice little shot lower. They got their retest. And once they got their little trap down below that low, the buyers just lit that sucker up and ran right back to retest the high. At this point, we're kind of in that same spot that we are on the S&P. We know we're bullish, but the problem is we're right up around that high, and it does look like these buyers mean business. It really does. It looks these buyers, right, certainly mean business here because they've got this strong move up. Anytime we see a strong move, we expect to see another leg, right? And they got their second leg. So the buyers, if I was in my trade room, I would say the buyers are in control. The buyers got what they came for, right? They got what they wanted. They wanted that retest of the high. And it really says a lot about the strength of these buyers right now because these guys bought right into that high, right? I mean, it's one thing to have a strong move, but it's another thing to have a retest and right into that high here. So definitely a very bullish sign here on the gold. And again, it should come no surprise, right? Fundamentally, this market is pretty much pinned to its highs right now. So gold is bullish, right? We want to be buying at support. And really at this point, it really kind of breaks down to what happens next. You'll notice I've got a couple things drawn up on this chart. One of them is this kind of spike in channel here, if you will. I'm kind of taking the liberty to make a good guess on this one. If the market does keep going higher here, I'm going to be looking for entries off the low, right, of this channel. It'll probably go a little bit higher, to be honest with you. So if we do see a jump higher here, one of my favorite setups here would be if the market does keep going higher, wait for that pullback, right? Wait for that classic, right, bear to try failure into a bullish pullback going higher, right? So buying the low of that kind of that new spike in channel. I would also keep an eye if the market keeps on pushing higher here, right? That next measured move going higher. Definitely keep an eye on a two-try trap pattern. If we do see a strong breakout here in the overnight, watch out for those 2 try traps. In those situations, I am always trying to find those new hidden channels. So watch out for those 2 try traps as the market goes higher. Those are a couple different scenarios I'm watching for right now, right? So do we continue going higher? Right? If we do, can I mark up that high, mark up that low, look for those failures, pullbacks, and traps off of that low? Do we blast up, shallow pullback? The giveaway on these 2 try traps is that blast up, that shallow pullback, that higher high. Blast up, shallow pullback, right? Higher high in price. Watch that trap, right? Watch that trap down below that low. And again, I always sort of find, right, those little hidden channels here to incorporate as support. Target, of course, right, is that measured move. Another thing I'm watching for would be if the market comes back down into this range now, because you'll notice what I have marked up, right? I've got this range marked up. So it looks like they want to keep pushing higher here, but that may not last very long. If we do get this market going sideways, or if we do see it start to pull back here into that battle zone. Now remember, what is a range? A range is a magnet. You can also use the top of that range as a level of support. And you'll also see, too, I've drawn this trend line down off of those lower highs. And I'll tell you, that would probably be the best setup we could hope for tomorrow, especially since this market is so bullish. Might be getting us in on the low of day on that nice deep pullback. So keeping my eyes on this area right here, right down inside of what I call the battle zone. And of course, if we do get that deep pullback right down into that support level, it should be a relatively easy seller failure. Again, wait for those bears to come in and try to get short off the moving average. When you get these deep pullbacks, that's where the money is, right? I'm not trying to pick the bottom on this. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to pick a bottom on this, because what happens is the market that moves that quickly, it'll oftentimes roll over, stop you out, and then it will make the run higher. So I never like to try to pick the bottom. When I see a nice deep pullback like this on a support level, I just wait for sellers to come in and start to sell off of the moving average test, because that tells me exactly where their stops are. That tells me exactly where their pain points are, and now it's much easier. It's a lot less anxiety, right? It's not as difficult on your mindset than trying to pick those bottoms with those V bottoms, right? I never try to pick the bottoms. Always try to buy into the stops of those sellers, and of course, possibly here, if we can get that failure into pullback, right, combination going back up into retesting those highs here. So I really like that spot down here. We'll see though. We'll see. As you can see as I'm recording this right now, gold continues to push higher here. So can we get that pullback? Can we wrap up those bears around the moving average and buy into stops for a retest of that high? Does the market continue to run higher on strength, marking up that high, marking up that low, buying the low of that channel? Does it really rev its engines and jump up, shallow pullback, higher high, and trap off the low? Right? Do we end up finding those new hidden channels up there and using that? That, of course, is on our radar here for the gold. Now, is there any way to sell this thing right now? Could I sell this market? Boy, not going to be easy, that's for sure, especially with opening up so strong here right now. I think the best scenario for the gold to get short is a lot like we just talked about on oil. You're going to have to get a very strong move down, and then we're going to have to find ourselves back inside of that range again, right? If we can get down through this support zone, if I can get down through that area here now it's all about traps, right? Now it's all about traps. And that's what will happen, right? Once this market starts to kind of peel off that high, if we start seeing that move lower, okay, people are going to reject the idea of selling pullbacks. They're going to want to be selling above the top of that range, right? Traps. That's the key when you sink back into a range like this. And again, what will probably happen is the market will probably sit and really jump back in. When it jumps in, though, we don't want to chase after it. We're going to shift our focus now to selling right above the high of that range. And usually that'll be some sort of trap high, right? There's a little trap high on there. Sell above the high of that range, and of course target is back down to the low of that range. If for some reason the market takes off to the downside, right, 1, 2, 3, reversal and runs, marking up that low, marking up that high, not going to be a very easy place to sell. So, like I said, be careful with those shorts right now. If we do get that run going lower here, keep your eyes open, right, for those traps. And then if we did happen to find our way all the way back down to the low of that range, that's when you start looking for those wide nesteds, right? Those one, those two. This is exactly the scenario with a wide range of where you look for those wide nesteds. Remember, the wider the range, the wider the failure needs to be, right? So, if this market just pukes, right, and goes back down again, I don't want to sell down here, right? I told you where I want to sell. I want to sell towards the high of that range with traps. But if the market pukes and heads lower here, unless it holds and keeps going, and then we could find some new channels on that and sell the high of those channels, you really want to stay patient. 1, 2, find that trend line, because that trend line will be your best friend for that rally going back higher. Boy, we had a lot of potential for tomorrow, right? A lot of options here, the buy side, the sell side. It looks like the bulls are making it very clear their intentions right now. That next measured move up there at 1887.1 is certainly looking likely at this point, but we'll see. This could easily collapse right back down again. So will we get that spike in channel on crude oil? Will we be able to get that pullback on the S&P, or will we have to kind of play around with these highs tomorrow? I am very excited to trade this stuff with you guys tomorrow morning in our trade room. So make sure you get registered. I don't want you to miss another great day tomorrow in the room. So I'll see you guys tomorrow morning, hopefully 8 o'clock Eastern time. I'll put all of the membership information you need in the description of this YouTube video. So if you're on YouTube right now, hit that link in the description. If you're on the blog at Sideways Markets, there'll be a big blue button for you right below this video on the trading blog. Register for tomorrow morning's trade room, or don't forget to call me here in the office. We did finally get our email situation. Don't get me started on the email thing. That email thing almost killed me earlier this week. My goodness. I really appreciate you guys being patient with us here this week. Emails are back online. The telephone works. I know. It seems like it's the most basic stuff right now. It's just kind of all hell broke loose over the weekend last weekend. But all kidding aside, though, we're online. We're back online here now. We're all good. We're still kicking here at School of Trade headquarters. Call the office. Shoot me an email. Jump on Skype. Don't be afraid to use live support. If you guys want to chat your way right into tomorrow morning's trading session, whatever you do, though, grab the free course if you haven't done so already. Get registered for tomorrow morning's trade room. And I hope by now you subscribed to our channel. Hit that thumbs up button for me. Drop those questions in the comment section below. And thank you so much for tuning in and waiting around for me here this week. I know I've been a bit late here this week. I should be able to get back to my normal schedule a little bit earlier in the evening, starting off tomorrow. I had to kind of get caught up from being distracted here earlier this week. So I do apologize for these slightly delayed videos this week, but you know me. I'll get right back after it tomorrow. We'll get back to normal schedule here for tomorrow. Keep in touch. Hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. If not, we'll see you guys in tomorrow night's newsletter. My name is Joseph. Be well out there. Be nice to each other, will ya? And be here next time. Adios, amigos. Bye-bye for now.